Hi there. My name is Ryan Day. I'm with One in Health, and welcome to our latest webinar entitled Patient Engagement Strategies to Boost Retention and Accelerate Enrollment. Our goal is that by the end of this, you've got some insights, you've got some insider tips, you've got some best practices that you can take with you to your site, to your clinical research organization that will help you maximize engagement with patients and ultimately accelerate enrollment. I am joined by Katie Rodimer, who is our Director of Site Engagement and Enrollment Operations, as well as Ashley Bishop, who is our Site Manager. So I'm going to give it over to them, let Katie first introduce herself, briefly tell us a little bit about her, and then Ashley, and then it will be back to me.
Thanks, Ryan. As you mentioned, my name is Katie Rodimer. I'm the Director of Site Engagement and Enrollment Operations here at One in Health. I've been in research for about 13 years, starting from the very beginning as a research coordinator at a site through working at a CRO and sponsor. And now I am very happy to be here on the vendor side at One in Health, really infusing clinical operations into recruitment.
I'm Ashley Bishop. I've been here at One in Health for just over a year now. This is my first experience with clinical research, so still relatively new to it, but I have been in healthcare for around 10 years now, so have some background. It's been so much fun, though, learning the clinical research side of things and getting to work directly with the sites each and every day, see what they do, what works, what doesn't work, and just offering support wherever I can.
Thanks, y'all. And like I said, my name is Ryan Day. I also don't come from a clinical research background, but in the time that I've been at One in Health, seeing how One in Health owns enrollment, starts from the very beginning with recruitment, and it's all the way through to ICF randomization or whatever other enrollment metric that we have. I've seen One in Health just stand out more than anything else as a partner, not as a vendor who picks and chooses which parts of the enrollment journey that we're going to help sites with, but rather a partner from the very beginning to the very end. So excited to be here, excited to be with y'all on this call, Katie and Ashley. And without further ado, let's just get right into the first best practice. So the first is that you want to minimize lag time between referral and site scheduling. So I'm going to go over to Katie first to talk about this 60% number, and then we'll get into some ways to practically incorporate this best practice, and then share a case study demonstrating how this best practice played out in the field for us. So Katie, over to you.
Awesome. Yeah. And I just want to start by saying these best practices are for anyone and from any source. So this is not One in Health specific referrals. These are tips that will help you at the site level with any patient that you're seeing. So I like to say my tagline for this best practice is speed is key. We have data over and over again that says if you don't contact someone, a new interested referral within 24 hours, there's a 60% chance that you will never get that referral back. That is a large number, the majority of patients. So it's really as simple as acknowledging them right away. So they know you're real, they know this is a real hospital and a real study, and that you will treat them with utmost respect and get to them as soon as possible. Ashley, anything to add on?
Yeah, absolutely. Just yeah, echoing everything that you said, they lose interest so quickly. And when they're already, they're interested, you want to reach out to them quickly. You want to make sure you keep them engaged from the very beginning. And at One in Health, that's what our patient coordinators do. But like you said, Katie, this is applicable across the board, whether you're working with us or not. The faster you can reach out to them, the better. We can kind of segue into the case study that we pulled up for this one. We worked on a vitiligo study across North America, so the United States and Canada. And there was a patient in Canada who submitted a contact form. They, went through the landing page, that initial questionnaire. Our patient coordinators then reached out within just hours of them filling out that first form, got them on the phone, and continued the screening process, passed them off to the site via a warm handoff. So transferred that call directly to the site, and the site was able to schedule that appointment within just 30 minutes. So boom, 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 you're getting them in, you're keeping them engaged, and you're going ahead and getting that appointment on the books so that, there's no room there to lose interest. And I think it's also worth mentioning that while this is one case study we have, this is something that we see work time and time again. It's not a weird one-off. This is absolutely consistent across the board. I can tell you earlier this week, one of my studies, referral filled out a form, and within like 4 hours from filling out that form, they were scheduled for an appointment. They went from filling out that form to being in screening within 4 days. So it's just crazy how quickly it can move. And if you really embrace that speed is key, you're going to make tons of progress there.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that phrase, speed is key. Let's look at a couple of practical ways to make sure that you're emphasizing speed and that you're minimizing that lag time between when the referral is reaching out or submitting a form and when the site is actually scheduling them to come on in. So Katie, I'm going to ask you to go over these, number one, because you're the Director of Site Engagement and Enrollment Operations, but also because I lifted this directly from one of your internal presentations. So yeah, love to hear more about these practical tips.
Good to know, good to know. Okay, so best practical tips. Automated notifications and scheduling tools. Work smarter, not harder, right? So let tech help you. Everyone, I think it's ubiquitous at this point. 90-something% of people have smartphones and use technology daily. So use that to your advantage. You can set up automated notifications that will contact the patient right away. Again, it might not be you, but they will know this is a legitimate process. And these tools will help facilitate the person from one step to the next seamlessly, instead of waiting for a call back from the site who might be busy, or they might be busy by the time you call back. So it just really helps. Use these things to your advantage. Calendly links, calendaring links can help move the process along. Step 2, and probably my favorite, is dedicated patient coordinators. I do oversee this team as well, and I like to call them our secret weapons. So we have nearly every study has dedicated patient coordinators who are trained on the protocol and trained on this population, and they have metrics and goals to contact people right away. They undergo empathy training and therapeutic area training to ensure they have the right tone and the right sentiment for that population. So I really think this takes a lot of the burden of kind of building trust with the patient and giving them that one-to-one attention before they even get to the site, I think is incredibly important. And number 3, standardized handoff protocols. So again, kind of going back to the automations and just seamlessly flowing through, do a patient zero run through, figure out what's going to happen from the time that you identify a patient, whether it's through ads or your own database, and how they're going to get to that last step. There are so many things you have to go through. You want to make sure they're properly pre-screened. You want to make sure their coordination, their calendar and their personal schedule will align with the study. You want to answer their questions in a timely manner and get them to the ultimate goal, which is to show up at the site, sign ICF, and enroll in these studies.
And I just want to add here, I think this slide really emphasizes how much technology and human touch go hand in hand. It's so important to have both sides of that. Like, use the technology to your advantage to make your life easier, but you can't replace that human touch and like that human connection that you have with these patients. And I think this does a really good job of emphasizing both of those points.
Yeah, and the last thing I'll say is that it strikes me how similar some of these practical tips are to say like an Amazon or like a Walmart delivery app or something like that, where these patients, like, you're not the only organization or person that they're reaching out to for something that they want or need. And what they're used to today is going onto Amazon, they check out, they click purchase, and within 2 seconds, there's a confirmation email. They're able to track their shipment. And so that's what patients are used to in other facets of their life. So the more that we can borrow like the good strategies that these other organizations and companies are doing when they're interacting with patients, the better, and the more comfortable that they're going to be going through the enrollment journey with sites.
Absolutely.
Before we move on, I actually love that you compared that to, an Amazon or a Walmart in the supply chain world. They say even in shopping or e-commerce, the last mile is the most difficult to get, the product to your house, the last mile within your house. And I think clinical research is very much the same way. Someone can talk to you on a phone all day, but if they have that hesitancy or haven't heard from you in a while, getting them through that last mile again to actually show up and be invested and interested in the study is a great analogy.
Yeah. And so what we want to leave y'all with in terms of the first best practice is just this question to think about, whether it's through the rest of this webinar or after you get done watching, is what tools or processes is your site currently using to make sure patients get that kind of immediate follow-up? So what Katie was talking about with the automation tools, Calendly, in terms of prioritizing which patients have reached out most recently, or what is it that Amazon or Target or Walmart are doing that you can adjust so that you're meeting the patient in a way that they are familiar with. But yeah, just think about that. Like, what tools or processes do you currently have that's making that enrollment journey a little bit more seamless? Or what is it that we've talked about that you could start incorporating right away? So best practice number 2, though, moving on, is to stay connected with patients across phone, text, and email. I know this is a really big point with you, Katie, in terms of you don't want to lock yourself into one specific mode of communication. You don't want to just reach out to patients with a phone call, voicemail, and if you don't get anything back, you try again in 3 days. You want to have some variety in how you're reaching out to these patients because, again, like the first point, this is what patients are used to. They're used to getting email notifications, an SMS text, seeing something on social, getting a phone call, and having someone leave a voicemail. So talk about the importance of multimodal, like a variety of communication when you're engaging patients at the site level.
Absolutely. This is another thing we preach often. The way I explain it is everyone has their own preferred way of contact, right? If you call me out of the blue and I don't know who you are, I'm not going to answer. And I think several people feel that way. So you really want to switch it up by meet the person where they're at, right? Maybe there are people who prefer email. There are people who prefer that text and then call. Maybe you call and then you send a text acknowledging who you are and asking them to call back. It's like I said, it's really meeting the patient where they are, trying exhaustively until you find which one kind of resonates with the patient.
Absolutely.
How have you seen this, Ashley? Yeah.
It's just going to help you cast a wider net. Like it's not going to limit you at all. And if someone doesn't like emails, they're not going to respond to your email, but they'll respond to your text message. And then also with texting, like you said about unknown numbers, I am one of those several people who will not answer a phone call if it's an unknown number. But if you text me beforehand and say, hey, this is Ashley from this study, and I'd love to discuss it further with you. Can I call you from this number? Then you've got a text. It's no longer an unknown number. They know that you're a real person. And they can also shoot you a text back and say, yeah, 15 minutes isn't good, but can you give me a call at 4? I'll be available. So, you're really just, like I said, casting a wider net, and it's only going to benefit you in the long run.
Yeah, and that's a great segue, because not all forms of communication, whether it's phone, text, or email, should be used in the same way. Like the same messaging, the same length of messaging, the same type of information that you're sharing shouldn't be employed like across all channels. You can't just like copy paste what you would do with an SMS and then that's a voicemail script. So these are the three predominant forms of communication that we see sites engaging with patients in. So Katie, I'd like you to talk about just all three of these, and then maybe some differences between the three, like how is phone a little different than email, a little different than SMS text?
Of course. I think commonly in this world, sites will just pick up the phone and call patients. And again, you see the issues that kind of Ashley and I raised. You see people not picking up, etc. But we all know, like Ashley said, it doesn't hurt to try. And those people do pick up. We have pickup rates for all three of these methods they all work equally and better in some populations, etc. So then we have email. I think people maybe not use this as much, but we actually have seen a lot in our studies, especially with our patient coordinators, that if you, again, maybe they're not by their phone all the time, maybe they're working, but you send them an email and maybe later that night, they remember the study, they remember that they are interested and they do want to partake, and they do respond often, trying to get back in touch and learn more about the study. And then text, of course, like Ashley said, who doesn't love a good text? And this day and age, like I said earlier, everyone has a phone. Doesn't matter what age, what demographics. This is a great way to get in touch with the patient. Our platform actually also has a built-in text feature, which we hear that sites love. Again, they can give a quick call. If they don't answer, they just shoot a message through our platform. And the patient can respond back right away and continue moving through the process. So again, it's different strokes for different folks, and just meeting people where they are, no matter the method. All of them are easy lifts if you just try and take a couple of minutes and remember to try them all.
Yep. And that, I think, brings us to another good case study that we have, kind of calling out this. We had someone for a incontinence study. They submitted a form, they got the automated text message and responded right back. So we knew that they were interested. From there, our patient coordinators reached out by phone and were able to get on the phone with them, answer any questions, do some more screening, make sure they were really, good and qualified before we sent them to the site. And then the site was able to get right in touch with them because, again, it all built on each other, right? So we kept them engaged from the very beginning. We reached out quickly. You're using all of these different methods of communication, and they get to the site, they're ready to go. The site schedules them from the appointment, and they get into the screening process. So this stuff really does work. And I will also mention like the different ways you use these communications. I've heard from tons of sites that a lot of people will want to review materials before kind of committing. Email is a great way to do that. And then phone, answering the questions, having the conversations, and texts, of course, are good for everything. I love a text message, but yeah, those quick little reminders, updates, things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And the last thing I'll say about this section in particular, we've recently released an ebook for free download called the Patient Engagement Playbook. We'll put a link in the description, but if you download that, there's actually sample messaging there. It actually breaks out phone into phone conversation versus voicemail, because again, those are two, very different ways in which you want to communicate and the types of information that you want to share, and what you're looking for to build with the patient in phone versus voicemail. But if you download the Patient Engagement Playbook, you're going to get sample messaging. You're going to get some different frameworks, some scripting. So download that, take a read, and learn a little bit more about what it means to engage patients across these different communication channels. So the question for this best practice is, are there any barriers that prevent you from using text, email, or phone consistently? So, again, as you're listening or watching the rest of this webinar, think about this. Like, what is it at the site level that could be hindering your ability to incorporate SMS text messaging into your patient engagement or patient retention processes? Because if you're not using all of these together in concert, and then you're going to be leaving some patients out because, like Ashley said several times, she loves a good text message. I don't. I love email. I love that voicemails are now transcribed on iPhone. So it really is different strokes for different folks, like Katie said. But yeah, think about that. What barriers, if any, are there at your site that are preventing you from using the full suite of communication tools that you have at your disposal?
Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of good free options out there too that people can explore if that is a barrier.
Absolutely, absolutely. Last best practice for this webinar is look for signs that patients are showing high interest. So this 40% number, what it shows is that, number one, there is a sizable amount of the patient population that is very or extremely interested in participating in trials. And so what that means is, okay, we've got almost half of the population saying that they're very interested in trials. It's not an awareness issue as much as it is a prioritization issue. And so what we want to do with this best practice is, number one, talk about the importance of prioritizing patients based on their interest level, because obviously higher interest patients are going to be more likely to engage and stay through the enrollment journey. But it also helps you do your job more effectively and more efficiently. So, Katie, if you don't mind expounding on the importance of prioritizing referrals and how and when you're reaching back out to them based on the signs that you're getting from the patient.
Absolutely, yes. And I love this stat because I think it's kind of flipping the narrative a little bit from, where we were 50 so years ago with clinical trials and the issues in that landscape and the trust that was broken with many populations. So I think this is really powerful. People are generally interested. They just don't know when or how to get involved. And that's why it's so important when they do show interest, even if it is clicking on an ad, calling you from seeing a sign on a bus. That's a huge opportunity to really reach someone and change their view of healthcare and clinical research as a whole. So I'm pretty passionate about this one. And as far as prioritizing, you will see early signs of, particularly in a digital campaign, we can see, right, who clicks, who drops off, who continues through. And our method is to contact them, first in, first out, right? So we try to get back to them as soon as possible and just really assess that. And again, like I said earlier, answer their questions, give them free rein to answer questions, and just really prioritize each person to get them comfortable and through to the next step.
Yeah, I think making each and every referral feel comfortable, feel heard and valued, and like their concerns and their questions matter and are important, that goes such a long way in keeping them interested, because you can quickly drop off if you don't feel like you're being heard or your concerns are being addressed. You're going to lose interest so quickly. And so that goes such a long way. And also, like you said, Katie, there are always signs, if someone's responding to text messages or phone calls, answering on the first call, like there are signs that they are highly motivated, highly interested in participating. And you definitely want to prioritize those because they're the most likely to commit and follow through.
Yeah, and speaking of, these are just some of the things that you can look for when you're starting to prioritize those patients, and there's more than these three. So Katie, I'd love for you to talk about these three, and if there are any that are missing from this slide, love for you to add that as well.
Sounds good. I love the after hours engagement. Many trials are often for healthy volunteers. They're often for people who are living their daily lives working, and just like everyone else, they get home, they start scrolling, they might see ads, or maybe even do their own research. But to me, that signals that that person is taking time to seek out, taking time out of their busy day to seek out more information and try to reach you. So that's always encouraging to see. And we try to honor that and abide by that, reach back out to them at the time that makes sense. Maybe if they indicate mornings or evenings, we just try to match their reach out as soon as possible, but then double check their preferred time, because maybe that means after hours might be better for them to discuss and screen for the trial. Quick response times, I think, as all the best practices have kind of alluded to, quick response means interest. They're hot. We call them hot leads, meaning we don't want to let them get cold. We want to keep the momentum going. And those quick response times, if you track them down through the funnel, they are the ones that show up and show up to the site and partake in the study, which is really, really great to see. And then proactive follow-up. I love to see this. I see this with my patient coordinators all the time as well. That they follow their process with the patient, they get them signed up for the next step, and it's those patients that are proactively following back up with them. Hey, I haven't heard from the site in a couple days. Can you help me with that? I love when they trust us enough to reach back up with us and help push to the next step, because again, they're not being left out for any reason. People get busy, things going on at the site, there might be holidays, but just continuing that communication with them and giving them that person who will, they know we will pick up the phone. And they call us to help us get through to the next step. And I love to see that. And again, those are the patients who are extra motivated to, if the site doesn't want to call them, they will call the site, which we love to see.
Yep. One of my studies earlier this week, we were talking to referrals. They had called us back. We gave them the phone number for the site. We were like, we'll call the site. You call the site. We're going to get you in touch with the site. But yeah, I love the proactiveness of these patients. It's fantastic to see.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, and again, this is, like the first point, meeting patients where they're at and what their expectations are for when they purchase something or they, submit to a trial. Like they're still reaching out for something that they want or need. There's a lot of crossover here with the real world. If I get an email from someone at 12:30 at night, I know instinctively this is a very important email. Or if I get, if someone asks me a question on Slack and I give a response, whether it's a coworker or whether it's, someone that we're working with, if they are responding to me within 15, 20 seconds, I know that they're very, very engaged with getting the information from me or the answer from me or what have you. So this is very applicable across all boards, but especially with patient engagement. If you're seeing after hours engagement, quick response times, and proactive follow-up from patients, that is, as Katie said, a hot lead, and it's someone that you're going to want to put to the top of your priority list. And the last question that we want to leave you with, speaking of high interest patients, is what strategies have you found effective for keeping patient engagement high after late night inquiries? So what is it at your site that you have in place, whether it's a process, whether it's an automated tool, whatever it is, what is it that is helping you, number one, respond to a patient who's reaching out after hours, but then secondly, engaging with them, whether it's an automated message or an automated email or an automated SMS text message, whatever it is that can show the patient right away, okay, my message has been received or my submission has been received. They are on it, and that buys you time until the morning and also acts as like a warm intro for you to then call or email or follow up with an SMS text, whatever your process is at your particular site. But it just again, it makes the enrollment journey a lot more seamless for the patient because they know whether it's automated or whether it's someone who's giving them a call in the morning. Oh, okay, this site is interacting with me and I am moving along the process for getting enrolled in this trial. So again, what strategies, and I'll also include processes or tools or apps or whatever, have you found effective for keeping patient engagement high after late night inquiries? And that's it. That is our webinar, Patient Engagement Strategies to Boost Retention and Accelerate Enrollment. Again, I would like to ask y'all, in the description, we've got a link to download our patient engagement playbook, which goes into all of these things more in depth, as well as gives you sample messaging, sample frameworks, and just sort of lays it out to where it takes it from conceptual to practical. So please do download that. Please get in touch with us if you have any questions, oneinhealth.com. We would love to talk with you and possibly work with you. But otherwise, we hope you all have a great day.
Thank you.
Hi guys, thank you.